Time to talk Diddy recap of day 6, which was yesterday. And today we've got day 7 of the trial, which I guess kicks off in another hour or so before they get to doing the do that is the circus called the Diddy trial. Now, yesterday, let's just jump right into it. Time to talk. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's well. Yesterday, we had testimony, as I spoke of when I first talked about what was going to happen on day 6. We have Dawn Richard. I think that name was sort of like she modified that when she became a celebrity, which we'll get into that in a second as well. But you know, look, I always, before I get on air, before I do this, you know, I watch other people. I get all the news, all the testimony, all the reporting on a lot of this stuff, and I kind of like parse through what's actually relevant, what's not really relevant, what you really need to hear. I'm not going to do a play-by-play. I just think that's boring, and I think you can find that anywhere. Most of what I do here, as far as what I'm trying to contribute to, is more just my take on things in a succinct way, where I kind of address certain things that might be relevant to the case and things that are important, things that happened, but I'm not going to spend 20 minutes detailing one thing or trying to lure you in to stay on my channel for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour at a time. I'm not going to do that. All right. I just want to get right to it. This whole thing with Dawn Richard, apparently she got caught out there lying. Let's just put it like that, right? Prosecution made the point that, look, you know, it took you 8 times under testimony before you actually mentioned anything about the beating that you saw. Right? You had been interviewed 7 times before and never said a word about it. All of a sudden now you're talking. So she got caught up in her words. And of course, there's always the excuse. Well, you know, my memory, that was a while ago. So I'm just now recollecting it. Okay, fine. Fair enough. But point is, doesn't look good for her as far as that goes. They also got into, you know, why, you know, the whole civil suit. Like, why are you pushing it? Well, I want justice. No, she wants a bag. She wants a payday. It's really what it comes down to. And she even admitted that on there, whatever. They also kind of came at her and pointed out the fact that her success with Danny Kane and Dirty Money, right? But she did her thing, but since then ain't done shit, right? Which I think she took objection to. It was kind of like, oh, I am successful. Yeah, I don't know who you are. Honestly, I'm keeping it real. Let me know in the comments below if you're a fan of Dawn Richard, and is she charting lately? I don't know. I haven't streamed her. I don't know any. She got singles out I'm not paying attention to. I don't know. I don't think she's nearly as successful as she was when she was with Diddy. That's just the way that is. Now, so we got that information. We got information about Usher. Usher witnessed her being punched in the stomach, Cassie being punched in the stomach at some dinner in LA. He saw that, and then, you know, they left, and she was embarrassed. And so I don't know if Usher's going to be bought into this. Who knows? You know, you got the whole thing with Usher being a 13-year-old boy, and he went to Diddy camp or whatever and witnessed all sorts of multiple things going on, which, you know, he did an interview with Howard Stern, I guess earlier this year or last year at some point. And he talked about that, which was a little suspect to begin with. And again, to reiterate, as you've heard me say on my channel, when we ever going to get to the whole stuff when it comes to minors? And why do you have 13-year-old boys and Justin Bieber and Usher and all these people? Why were they a part of this whole thing? And did Justin Bieber and Usher sell themselves and their souls to the devil and Diddy and to make their careers what they are? Would they have been nobodies had they not partaken in all of that? We're going to get to that at some point. I hope. I would suspect we get to that. But anyway, so Usher might be calling as a witness. Who knows? I don't know. Now, there were some interesting things. Okay, so before I even get to this one part, but there's also, as far as witnesses go, there was Kerry Morgan, who's Cassie's best friend. And she, you know, they haven't spoken since 2018. And that's when Diddy assaulted her. Basically hit Kerry Morgan with a wooden hanger, apparently. That's what that was about. But Kerry Morgan testified about more beatings and things along those lines. We've got some stuff about a chef possibly being brought in. We've got after the incident at the Intercontinental Hotel in LA when Cassie went home and her friend Kerry Morgan was there. Diddy showed up with a hammer at the door. Oof. So more abusive stuff, right? More abuse things happening. Diddy kept drugs in a Louis Vuitton bag, and he kept a gun on him. This is testimony from Kerry Morgan, again, also from Dawn Richard, that, you know, he carried a gun. I don't know the relevancy of that and whether that's actually been verified, because she claimed, and the defense asked her, did he ever brandish the gun? In other words, did he ever take it out? Did he ever like wave it around? Did he ever show you? And she's saying no, he didn't. So these are the things that took place, like the more important things that took place. Now, there was also a release of a bunch of photos. And in these photos, you see the bag with, I think it's $9,000 in cash. There's drugs, assorted prescriptions, and then there's Plan B. And then there's the baby oil and all that stuff, which we've seen the baby oil photos. Well, in one of the residences, we saw the 10,000 bottles, whatever it was, right? But we got more photos of that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So again, I asked the question, what are we looking at here when it comes to, racketeering, right? And sex trafficking? What are we looking at for these RICO charges to exist? We're looking at a guy, an abusive guy who was a freak, who did drugs. Like, he was a billionaire rap mogul, hip hop music mogul, liquor brand owning, fashion mogul. This guy had some prescription drugs, a lot of baby oil, condoms or not condoms, and Plan B. And find me a rock star. I dare you to raid any of the rock star celebrities, okay, their green rooms or their hotel rooms at any given point, and tell me there's not some sense or some form of drugs, money, condoms, whatever it is, right? It's not like they raided him and found, kilos of cocaine or crystal meth, right? You're not finding any of that stuff. So I look at this entire case so far. What you have is an abusive boyfriend, a relationship, a toxic relationship with two drug addicts, two sex addicts, and an abusive boyfriend. That's what we have so far. And today, day 7, this is Tuesday, May 20th, day 7. We're going to have Cassie's mother is set to testify today. Now, what is that going to do? Obviously, the mother knows what she knows, and we'll find that out specifically what she knows, detail for detail. But what that says to me is obviously it's going to make the further case that Cassie took some whoopings, right? And she had whatever conversation she might have had with her mother. Maybe that will come out. We'll hear some of that. We'll see. But it seems to me that so far the feds have made a case against Diddy for being an abusive boyfriend. That's what we got so far. I'm not seeing the whole thing with prostitution and across state lines for the purposes of enhancing an empire or his organization or anything along those lines. I see a guy who liked, to watch his girlfriend being banged out by escorts, right? And I saw some attorney talking about it, prostitute and making the prostitute. You're not making a prostitute have sex with your girlfriend if you hired a prostitute to have sex with your girlfriend. You hired him to do a job. That's what his job is. How are you conflating the two? How are you saying, well, if once you make the guy, you hire a prostitute, make him have sex. You didn't make him, you hired him, you paid him money to do it. And she was helping to do it. So far, again, I want to reiterate, this is a case about a billionaire media mogul who liked freaky sex with his girlfriend, who had a toxic relationship with his girlfriend. They were both kind of like whatever on some, shit. And they hired prostitutes and escorts and he used, prescription drugs and MDMA and ecstasy, did all sorts of stuff that tons of other musicians have used in the past while engaging in sexual activity or prior to or post sexual activity. This is what's going on. And he was an abusive boyfriend. They had fights about other men and jealousy and him with other women. They had fights, they had back and forth, and that's what people are testifying to. So again, you want to convict Diddy for being an abusive boyfriend and a woman beater? Yeah, hey, let's lock him up if that's the case. But this is a federal case about racketeering and sex trafficking, and I have yet to see how they're going to make that case. Now, it's early on, so possibly they're laying the groundwork, laying the foundation, as some people like to say, and that's what that's what's happening here. But I still have not figured out how they're making this case right now, based on what they have, that he was controlling a whole bunch of people in the efforts to enhance the empire and the bad boy name and label or all sorts of other things. This was a guy who was telling people, yeah, man. Yeah, she deserved it, man. I hit this girl. And he's trying to tell people to keep quiet because obviously for publicity reasons, for his reputation, right? And he was hiring sex workers and he did some drugs. And of course he had Plan B. Of course, like he had people nutting inside this girl. So of course he had Plan B. She wanted Plan B. Like, what are we looking at? Anyway, it's my take on it. I still continue with the same thought about this. We're waiting to see what happens. We've got Cassie's mother testifying today. We shall see what happens. Let me know in the comments below what you think is going on. Let me know if you agree with my assessment of the situation so far. I'm just waiting to see the federal, the prosecutors make this case and start to really narrow it down to see how this enterprise is, how these charges are going to be substantiated and what's going to happen. I think we've got the mother testifying today and someone else. I believe a former executive assistant is going to be testifying as well. Somebody who witnessed some of the abuse against Cassie. So we'll see that. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on about it again and again. Comments below. Let me know. Like the video. Subscribe for more. If you have not yet subscribed, put on a notification bell so you don't miss these videos. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.